expecting you guys here so soon. Well, it's getting pretty cold out there in Minnesota. So before we start today's episode of Environmental Snippets, let me take my shoes and coat off, and I'll be right with you guys. Today on Environmental Snippets, mining in Minnesota. Hello again, and welcome to Environmental Snippets. This is a weekly show that I like to do that just sheds a little bit of light on environmental topics surrounding the Minnesota area. On today's episode, I'd like to tackle the subject of mining. Now, a lot of fuss has been made lately in Minnesota about mining because of the proposed PolyMet mine. Now, before we start talking about the PolyMet mine and getting into the specifics of that, how about we take a look first at the key terms for today? Here is a look at today's key terms. Now that we have today's key terms, let's keep a close eye and see when they come up in today's episode. Now, I stopped in at the library because before you should tackle any issue, you should get to know its past. So, let's take a little bit of a look at the past of the mining industry in Minnesota. Here is a look at some of the beginnings of the mining industry in Minnesota. While searching for gold, prospectors stumbled upon vast amounts of iron ore, but ignored it. This large reserve, located in the northeastern section of Minnesota, would become known as the Iron Range and create an economic boom to the area. Rich iron deposits occur in three ranges across Minnesota: the Vermilion, Mesabi, and Kiana Range. After reading about the beginnings of the mining business in Minnesota, I wanted to explore more current data. Well, according to MinnesotaIron.org, iron mining helped contribute more than $3 billion to the state economies in 2010 and helped support more than 11,000 jobs. Now, based on 2010 production levels, iron mining paid $152 million in state and local taxes, with over half of that amount going to local schools. Mining accounts for 30% of Minnesota's gross regional product. So we've heard the economic impact of mining. Now let's take a look at the environmental impact of mining. Much of the impact of iron mines in Minnesota heavily depends on the method of extraction and the elemental composition of the ore-bearing rock being harvested. Gangue is the portion of an ore deposit which has no commercial value. Toxic chemicals can often occur in the gangue. These chemicals are mobilized by wind in the refining process and become primary contaminants. The massive scale of today's mining creates massive piles of gangue. These piles are called the overburden. Overburden can contain dangerous chemicals, such as the elements aluminum, arsenic, cadmium, and zinc. By 1985, the United States had already generated 50 billion tons of mineral processing waste. Another problem alongside the excess mineral waste is AMD. AMD, or acid mine drainage, is characterized by a low pH and high acidity level in runoff water. Acid mine drainage is produced primarily by the oxidation of the common iron disulfide mineral pyrite. Acid mine drainage can kill fish and other animals. Sulfide-rich ores usually aren't mined in Minnesota, but there are new mining conquests coming that may change that.
This map not only points out the location of the proposed Polymet mine, but it also locates its proximity to watersheds and basins around the northern region of Minnesota. So, what exactly is the Polymet mine? Well, the Polymet mine is the first of its kind in Minnesota. It is a sulfide open pit mine that would extract nickel and copper from three large, roughly 696-foot deep pits. Excavated material, or overburden, would be stored in 20-story high piles located next to the mine. The largest concern over Polymet is the large amount of overburden that will be piled around the mine. As we have previously discussed, dust from mines can affect surrounding populations as a primary pollutant. Are the economic gains enough to outweigh the environmental hazards? It's important to consider that not all mines are economically beneficial. We'll take a look in the next slide at the Gilt Edge mine and see if it was an economically positive thing for the community. In many ways, the Gilt Edge Mine Superfund site is a poster child for those opposed to new mine sites. When permitted to, the Brown Mining Company stated that there was no risk of acid mine drainage, but that proved to be terribly wrong. Here is a look at what lies ahead in the future of mining. This is a summary of Molycorp's new green mining methods. Molycorp was a mining company that shut down in 2003 after an environmental disaster. They are looking to reopen currently with these new green mining methods. Well, on today's episode, we've looked at the past, present, and future of mining in Minnesota. I hope you all enjoyed the show, and I hope to see you next week. Thank you. You have a great one.